Welcome to a live episode of Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation, and welcome to another episode of Surviving the Survivor and another collaboration with Jury Duty Podcast. If you're not following them, you better start soon. You got Lindsey G up top and Kimberly B. They rhyme. I'm a poet, and I didn't even know it. And they are going to be walking us through the story of Mamta Bhatt today, which is a fascinating story that they have been covering, and I really haven't been covering much. Look at this. Out of the gates. New member. YouTube member. New member. New member. New member. New member.
Nicely
new
done.
Member. Very happy to see everybody. Thank you. I appreciate it. And we appreciate it. And COE was telling me, sometimes there are new members and they don't really know what we're about. So what we're about is pretty much our tagline, the best guests in true crime. We bring on fellow podcasters like you see here. We've got criminal defense attorneys, criminal profilers, the children of serial killers, you name it. They are here. Famous prosecutors, forensic pathologists. They come here and they break down some of the biggest stories with us. And we cover a wide variety of stories, but also the biggest stories trending, such as Brian Kohberger accused of the so-called Idaho 4 murder. Now, yesterday, before we get going with Mamta, we did a story about a young man named Suchir Balaji, who is 26 years old, an American who grew up in Cupertino, California, and he was an absolute prodigy. He was talking in full sentences by age of 2, building computers by the age of 11, 13. He was coding at above a college level. Anyway, he went on to work at OpenAI. He was one of their main engineers building ChatGPT. And then he decided he was going to blow the whistle. He wasn't happy with what was going on, and he winds up dead. And the mom is convinced, and she was on the show last night, that it is no self-unaliving, which is what police, the medical examiner, ruled it after San Francisco police spent about 40 minutes inside the apartment and then basically gave the family the keys back and said, here you go. A lot of strange things that are not adding up, reminiscent of the Ellen Greenberg case, and we're going to continue to follow both. So check it out if you didn't see last night's show. I think you'll hi all. Last night's show was fascinating. Yes, it was. Yeah, and I don't care, but not enough people watched it. I care for the mother, so I put it out on Twitter at Podcast STS. Please share and retweet. That story needs much more exposure. But now we are on to a different story today, and it is the story of Mamta Bhatt, this woman right here. She is missing but presumed dead. She's I guess we should say, a 28-year-old pediatric nurse from Manassas Park, Virginia, which is a D.C. suburb, essentially. And she was reported missing on August 5th of this past year, 2024, by her husband, a guy named Naresh Bhatt. Then investigators started to dig, and they realized that she was last seen or heard from on July 29th. So you go from July 29th, the husband does not report her missing, for about 7 days later on August 5th. And here to discuss this, again, Jury Duty Podcast, Lindsey and Kimberly B. And Kimberly B., since you are, I believe, in the DMV, that area, we'll start with you. This is the husband now accused of the crime. First of all, what I hadn't heard of the story. Obviously, you guys did. What turned you on to this?
Well, it's really when she went missing, it started making the local news. Vinny had been covering it lightly on his lives, and I tuned in and I went, that's Manassas. That doesn't happen very often here. You don't see Manassas very often in headlines, not since the 90s at least. But it's happening in my backyard. And this is pretty atypical. And I love to knock Florida because that's where all the crazy crime happens. But it seems like Manassas is becoming a little bit of a hotbed, or Northern Virginia at least. But this felt deeply personal because the community very quickly started to rally around Mamta and really just jumped into action very quickly. Searches were organized. So many people that you would not have expected to come together that quickly immediately felt a sense of urgency, and so did I. And I ended up knowing people that knew her very well. So it just became sort of our Dan Markel situation. I got very deeply personally invested. And on a practical note, it really is heartbreaking because this follows a very disturbing pattern of no body cases of missing mothers. And down to the methodology, the MO, the trips to Home Depot, which I still don't understand. But
it's
it's a
always the
disturbing
trips. Yeah.
pattern. Yeah.
We did the Barry Morphew,
Mhm.
Suzanne Morphew case, and that was a nobody case for a while. It was eventually discovered 3 years later, but there's this very similar case, and there's a court hearing next week with Brad Simpson and Suzanne Simpson, and that is a nobody case too. So it does seem like we hear about this more than we should. Lindsey, to you, tell us about Mamta, and then we'll get to the husband. But was she born here? Obviously, an unusual name. Where's she from originally? I know they had a young daughter, and she was a pediatric nurse. So obviously, a job that's very important. What do we know about her?
Yeah, so she's actually from Nepal. And her and Naresh had an arranged marriage. That's what got her here. She came here, she went to nursing school, she wanted to be a pediatric nurse. She worked at a local hospital a few days a week. Obviously, she had that little baby that you see in the picture. That was actually the first picture I ever saw of Mamta when she was missing. And she just had a huge heart for children, obviously, wanting to work where she did. She loved her job. She had a really great group of friends from the hospital. And she just was a delightful person. She was just really, really obviously, you see the sign in the picture. She was very loved.
Yeah.
And did she move here just when the marriage was arranged, or had she been living in the States prior? I guess, in other words, was the United States a very brand new home to her?
It was. They were married, and then she came over to join him. So they were married in Nepal. He's already a U.S. citizen. He's an Army reservist. He was working in IT for General Dynamics in or around the White House. He didn't have a really top posting, but he was doing well for himself here. He was on a trajectory to do well for himself. And in Nepal, arranged marriages are not uncommon. So they were married there. And then she came over shortly after, towards the end of 2021, was living with roommates and friends. And then 2023, they buy their home, which you've seen in some of the pictures in the news. And by the end of 2023, they have a baby. So it all happens very quickly, but she was not here before they got married. I think that was sort of the conduit of her coming here, as a lot of people do, to try to have this big adventure, this big new life, as so many people and so many of our ancestors did. So it was all very new. Their marriage, her being here, all in the last 4 years.
Yeah. By the way, Nepal, the home to Mount Everest. But my man Myron, I have not seen you in a long time. Happy to have you back. Justice for Mamta, Myron, Miami Myron, as we call him, or at least I do as of right now. Back in the chat. So, the husband, it's always, the person that's closest to, who they look at first. And obviously not the most flattering mugshot in the world, but this is him here. Had there been previous incidences of DV, we don't like to say the word, but you know what I'm getting at. Had authorities been called to the house before? Had she put out a cry for help? And also Leo wants to know, which I think the answer is yes. Was he also Nepali? Yes, correct?
Yeah,
He was, yes.
Okay, so
Well,
yeah, what
this
do we
is
know?
long,
what do we know?
long answer, Joel.
All right, hey, make it long. That's why it's a podcast.
What we've enjoyed in our own way at putting this together is the amount of detail that we're able to string together coherently in one central place to tell her story, not piecemeal all over the place. So we've got almost a chronology hour by hour while she's missing, the days after. But something that we really leaned into was what was going on before. And there was DV in their relationship before. It had been witnessed by friends. He acknowledged it. His parents, who were living here with him at the time that this happened, with them, I should say, they acknowledged it, but didn't seem like they were prepared to interfere.
Mhm.
And there had been times where she had left the home. One specific incident that we can get into more detail about, but there was an openly secret history of DV, but in other ways too, coercive control, withholding money. At certain times, he would sort of taunt her and dangle this sweet baby. We're not going to say her name out of respect for the family. She's just turned 1. We just call her baby.
Mhm.
And I understand Mamta's parents came from Nepal and are caring for the baby. Is that correct?
Her mom and her brother.
Yes,
Yeah.
they got an emergency visa. Yeah. Her mom
Lindsay,
and her
let me
brother.
ask you a question. I know you're not a psychologist. What the hell are these guys thinking when they kill the wife, allegedly, and
Yeah.
they leave behind a 1-year-old daughter? And now the dad's going to likely be in prison forever. The mom gone forever. I mean, what do you we see this all the time? And I ask law enforcement, what do you think it is? Why do they not think about the repercussions or the long term, you know, problems, I guess?
Yeah, I don't know why they don't think about the long-term problems. What's interesting to me is Naresh was not blind to having issues with Mamta, and he had known that she wanted to leave. He actually was talking to other women that she knew about. I mean, he had really a whole other life. Um, and she wanted to go, and a huge, I guess, problem with their marriage is this whole green card and these immigration forms that she wanted. He took them from her so she couldn't find him. She actually called the police one time because she said that, he was hiding them from her. And it was just a lot of control, is really all that I'm hearing. I don't know why he didn't think about the long term effects, but as we go through the story, you're going to see a lot of just some crazy stuff he was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Black Widower has the answer in the Republic of Ireland because he's a gaping, you know what, Joel. She just cuts right to the chase. So you see
Bullshit.
this. Again, these are the co-hosts of Jury Duty Podcast, and they provided us this. I think this is the first time we've really done this like this, where I'm just kind of straight up asking the questions, and with limited research. But I like this. This is good. I think it's very interesting because now I'm like looking at it with a brand new eye here. But you see, 2020 to 2021, that's the marriage and immigration. December 10th, 2020, Mamta Kafle weds Naresh Bhatt in Nepal in an arranged marriage. Bhatt, as you heard, is a U.S. citizen, an Army reservist, an IT professional, and Mamta is studying for her nursing degree. She immigrates to the U.S. in 2021, first living with a roommate while finishing education. Then August 20th, 2023, the Bhatts welcome, I'm not going to say her name, but it is in there. On August 31st, 2023, they purchased their home in Manassas Park. Naresh's parents come. So you see it all laid out. So you guys said that there was a kind of a history of domestic violence. Do you have, not to put you on the spot, but do you have any idea, how many times is there a record of how many times police were called out to the home prior to this?
No. And I think that's because there were never any charges filed.
Mhm.
I was not able to find, in my limited amount of time that I was doing research, because we wanted to keep up with this case. It moved very quickly. Again, this is July to now.
Yeah.
But The one that we could document was in February of 2024. So February to July of this past year is a very important time period up to the point she goes missing. And the cops, the Manassas Park Police Department, was called to the house for a disorderly conduct call. And this is when Mamta tells the police that he's taken her passport, green card, he's withholding her money, and most importantly here, destroyed her phone. That will come up several times in his stories to police later, and the green card will come up again as well. And those set a lot of foundation for what we think is going to happen later on in the legal proceedings that are ongoing. But also, these are important details when thinking about what he does, what he says, and some of his motivation, and also how the Commonwealth of Virginia will probably strategize to tackle this case. But this is the only incident that we were able to find quickly. And immediately after this, she takes baby and goes to stay with a friend. She does this with the clothes on her back. She's not packing bags. She's not getting squared away. She picks up and she goes. But what's important is she took the baby. And she stays with this friend for about a week in the middle of February. She ends up leaving about the 21st, which is Naresh's birthday. They picked her up. And when they get home, they have this sort of strange intervention where people are expressing their concerns. And at some point, she flat out says, "We'll tell them you have abused me." And he didn't deny it. But
this is amongst friends here where this comes
friends
up?
and family. Yeah. But while she's with the friend, she is able to use a phone. She is able to have some breathing room, is how I imagine it to be. They were generous enough to give her a phone on their phone plan so she could have some access to the internet. Because again, her level of autonomy in this marriage was very low. She didn't drive because she didn't have a license. She didn't have her own money. She was only working part-time, and even that was a challenge because she had a baby that he was not actively taking care of. He wanted no part in being Disneyland dad. He just, according to interviews that their friends have given, absolutely was just
hands off.
Plagued by his life, that he was the henpecked husband, the stereotypical, I get home, I work hard, I don't want to be nagged, I have no joy here. It seems like this was not the traditional pairing that he was looking for. And this bothered him greatly. She expected the bare minimum of him, but to him, this was a big ask. But while she's with the friend, she starts posting on social media, so Facebook community pages. And she says that she is trying to figure out how to handle being a single mother. Her husband is threatening to put their child in foster care. How do I get out of this? I need help. I need advice. Someone please help me. And you can see here a little bit on the screen that people are responding. And she's saying, well, we still live together. So we know that she's still living in the house. She has no money, that he's taken all of her money. You get a sense of, okay, by February, Mamta is receptive to the idea that she needs to go. But before that, she really just maintained this really almost in denial in the nicest possible way. She wanted this to work. She was very proud of being a wife and a mother, and she saw the best in him or what was possible. And she'd share what was going on in their marriage with friends and family, and even documenting it in some cases in case it's needed later, which breaks my heart. But it seems like by February, she's coming around to the idea that, okay, this does not work. But before that, was really doing everything that she could, as you see with a lot of DV victims and survivors, to try and calm the tides and see if it was salvageable. And of course, she's in a new country.
Yeah, by the way, so I'm sorry, but February is about what, like a year that they're married, where she realizes, is it?
Yeah, a year and a half or so.
A year. Okay. So then she's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then you see here, and you guys mentioned this, he admits on February 21st to being violent with her. And then later in February, she confides her marital troubles to a coworker, and that person tries to give her domestic DV advice. But Lindsey, it's interesting and sad and kind of a cautionary tale, because this is now maybe 5 months and change before she goes missing. We're talking February to August, and it's just so sad. What's the gap where she leaves? She's with her friend, but then I assume obviously she goes back at some point. Do we know when that happens?
Yeah, so she does go back on his birthday.
It's about a week later.
Yeah, about a week later. So she was only gone for a week, and like Kimberly said, like she left with the baby and the clothes on her back. And her friend provided her a place to stay. And it's also important to note, like, when she was working to get back and forth to work, she would have to do like a ride share. Also, he would sometimes disappear when it was time for her to go to work. So she would be left with the baby and would have no childcare. She would have to call out. She was, like we spoke about, left with no money. And things just kept getting progressively worse. And, when we talk about DV here, also, I wanted to say that, she had a friend that got interviewed. And it's like a 4-hour interview from a journalist out of Nepal. And it's on YouTube if you look it up. And she talks about how, like, she had seen him spit in her face.
Yeah.
Like a few times.
Mhm.
And she said that she pulled him aside one day and had said, like, I'm afraid you two are going to hurt each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, and they're making absolutely zero excuses. The only thing I'm thinking, different cultures,
I
different
know.
practices, but zero excuse for that. But this is also interesting. So this timeline that you guys have broken down for us, this part here, I did not know this. April 2024, Naresh uses his government issued work
Yes.
laptop. This guy ain't too smart. How
No.
long, and Google's how long to remarry after your spouse dies? What happens to debt of died spouse? Happy New Year message to girl. Kim, what's going on here?
So Joel, before I jump on those,
Yeah.
there were some Google searches in February about uncontested, and this is important to me because this jumped out to me because of the subtext that you might not see on its face. He was Googling in February, contested divorce in Virginia and contested divorce joint bank account Virginia. So I hate to brag about how awesome my life is, but I've been divorced in Virginia. So this was relevant to me because this was the first time I thought, wow, this was premeditated. Because an uncontested divorce typically means that both parties agree to settlements, assets, custody, all that jazz. You can go pro se, go in front of a judge, bing, bang, boom, it's done. But the other meaning of an uncontested divorce, especially here, you can file for divorce if your spouse is not in the state or missing. And all you have to do is wait it out. You have to give them some reasonable notice, a newspaper posting, certified return receipt mail, process server. And after a certain amount of time, if they don't respond, a judge can go ahead and grant you a divorce. So do I think he meant after not wanting to share money with her, withholding her legal paperwork so she couldn't go anywhere, not wanting to take care of a child, and generally just robbing her of all autonomy, that he was going to have a peaceful divorce with her where they'd be happy 50-50, go our separate ways? Absolutely not. He was thinking an uncontested divorce because she would not be here to contest it.
This one of you mentioned coercive control, but I mean, Lindsey, this has like all the hallmarks. I mean, this is like a case study, like withholding the money, taking the phone, and here she is like isolated in a new country. I mean, this part of it is particularly disturbing, isn't it?
Oh, it is. I mean, he's a walking red flag, like head to toe, coercive control. And I think it's Kimberly waving a red flag.
I have my red flags ready at all times.
Well, and I think it's important to note too, and I don't know if we've really touched on this, but during most of their marriage, his parents were living in the home. And
his
also,
own parents. Okay.
His own parents were
Now,
living in the home.
were his own parents? They had to be questioned and might still be by law enforcement. But anything public about that? Like, did his parents admit to their son's, wrongdoings?
His mother acknowledged them, but did
She
not say
acknowledged
one
them.
way or the other whether she condoned it or not.
Mhm.
Lindsay, I don't know if we found anything else. She gave an interview, didn't she?
She gave an interview. I think they mostly acknowledged amongst their group that they knew how Naresh was,
Yeah.
which is not a great person.
Mm.
So I think they knew in their group, and also, I think his mom had told someone before that had happened.
Well, and you have to remember, I mean, Nepal is among one of the most poor and least developed countries in the world, but it is changing.
Mhm.
And they rely heavily on foreign aid. And it's still a very embedded in the culture is a very patriarchal sense of order. There's also still sort of a son preference. They are a developing country that really does need all of the help and support of their UN compatriots. However, there is still very culturally a son preference and they lean in a little bit more to the credibility and respect of elder men. I
Mhm.
would find it hard to believe that she would contradict him in public or condone him in public. And he was very concerned about how people viewed him and what the optics were. You see all these beautiful pictures. And Lindsay and I talked about this, and I find it really weird that a couple that has this many happy memories just suddenly, this is what happened. Well, it wasn't sudden. He flat out says, this is a sham. Don't believe what you see in pictures, because he was that preoccupied with what people thought about his marriage.
Who did he say that to and when?
Was that in a jailhouse call or was that in an interview, Lindsay, with the friend?
So if you go back and watch this 4-hour interview with his friend that's got subtitles,
Mm.
yeah, she even talks to Naresh while he is in custody, and he says it to her. Also, I see in the chat a lot of people are concerned where the baby is right now. The baby is actually with Mamta's mom in the States.
Yes.
In the States.
Yeah.
So let me put this back up here. And I know there's some people listening in their cars because they mentioned that in chat. So don't watch and drive, but listen and drive
Yeah.
for sure. Let's see
Great
here.
time to plug the fact that we've covered this on our channel heavily,
Yeah.
and you're welcome to go and watch it. We put the visuals up there for you too.
Jury Duty Podcast. Check it out. So June 2024, Mamta posts here on June 19th on social media for help about her missing green card. Mamta speaks on the phone to a friend and discusses her troubled marriage. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but she would be looking for a green card, either to relocate. But I assume Naresh took that. Do we know that to be fact?
So back in February with that DV called the police, she tells them he took my passport, he took all my documents, he destroyed my phone. So we know that her green card is not missing. And it's going to come up again when he talks to the police. He's going to tell the police that she took all of her things with her. But we now know that it's been documented. No, you took it from her and we're withholding it from her. And her naturalization appointment was coming up August 5th. So it's not a coincidence, but it is confusing. If you want to be rid of this person and could have divorced her, why would you withhold her ability to go home if that's where she wanted to go? But I think he knew she wanted to stay here. And her here, independent, even divorced, is still a problem for him. Because I think in his mind, first of all, he's got some frontal lobe. I'm fascinated with his body cam interviews with the wellness check with the police because he cannot control he's a chatty Cathy, but it's nonsensical. If anything,
Is that something you sent to the COE? Maybe she could pull that.
Yeah.
COE, can you try to pull that up if you can? I know it's a lot, but
It's a little long, but
it
it's
is,
good.
and we will get
Yeah.
there.
yeah. So I didn't mean to interrupt there.
Oh no, you're good.
Continue forward. Yeah, I mean, obviously everything goes really south in July, but what are some important dates are there after the timeline we just put? Here's the actual timeline, but of
Yeah.
the
This is
727
very important.
Yeah. Now, is there stuff before this that you want to get to?
No,
Okay,
nothing,
okay.
nothing significant.
Okay,
It's just
so
more breadcrumbs about her state of mind.
All right, so here we've arrived now in late July. You heard that there was problems in February and cries for help, and now it is July 27th. So, Kimberly,
Yeah.
where are we at here?
July 27th is the last time she is seen in public. She is out front of the UVA Prince William Medical. If you are from Northern Virginia, you know I'm going to just call it Prince William Hospital. But she's standing out front of the hospital waiting for her rideshare to take her home. Side note, Naresh's public defender tried to say, we need to talk to this person who picked her. It's irrelevant. She was waiting for a rideshare. She ends up going home. But this is the last time she's seen in public on camera outside of her home. And the 28th is one of the catalysts for whatever happened late on the 29th. But we can see what her routines were. We know that she spoke to her mother at least twice a day on video chat. That was routine. She does this. She's regular on social media. She's posting to TikTok. She's chatting with people on Facebook Messenger. And Naresh is somewhere in Baltimore doing who knows what. When I zeroed in on the zip code he was at, thanks to the data from his Tesla, we know exactly where he was. It's a residential area. There's nothing there. It's not like there's anything exciting to do there. So my assumption, and I could be wrong, we may never know, is that he might have been with someone that he should not have been with. But he's there all day and all night. And it looks like Mamta tries to call him several times without reaching him, which is also another red flag. If you've ever been cheated on, you know that when someone is with someone they shouldn't be with, they tend not to answer your phone calls.
Yeah.
But she's trying to reach her friends late at night, right before he leaves to come home, to come over to their house, which I find strange because why would you need someone at 11 o'clock at night to come to your home? I'm assuming that she wasn't comfortable or they were having trouble and she didn't want to be alone in the house with him because now his parents are back in Nepal. They're alone. They do have a basement tenant, but they don't, it's not like they're interacting a lot. And then he leaves Baltimore around 11:30 that night and arrives very early in the morning on the 29th, which is the last day that we see any activity from Mamta.
You said a basement tenant, so someone who's renting space there. Was that person? I assume they had to interview this person, and did this person, had they been hearing, screams, cries for help, anything along those lines?
We haven't heard any of that, and with the amount of information that we have been provided, I feel like they're either going to save that for trial or it didn't happen. The only information and insight we have about the tenants is that after she goes missing, they tell police that 2 days later, he asked them for help moving their bed in the master bedroom for some reason. We'll talk about that. We know the reason, but that's all we know so far about the tenant. So I do hope we find out more during the trial. Because I'd love to know.
We have the body cam footage, and I can play it. Just set the body cam footage up for us. When is this from exactly, and what are we about to see?
Yeah, I believe it was August 2nd.
Yes, her coworkers called in a wellness call.
Yeah, she didn't show up for work. Her coworkers knew what was going on at home, right? And so they called the police. The police go over to do a wellness check, and Naresh just can't help himself. He just keeps talking, and it's nonsense.
But remember,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was going to say she has no family here.
No family.
She has nobody, and she has nothing. So that's important to think about when you listen to this body cam call.
And again, so she's last seen July 29th, 2024, which is this past July 29th, and then gets reported missing by the husband on August 5th. So there's this gap from the 29th of July to August 5th. And in that gap is when they do this welfare check. And this runs 11 minutes, but I'd like to see it. So I'm going to play it, and then we'll discuss on the flip side. And there's plenty more to discuss on the other side of this.
Okay.
Hello, sir. How are you? I'm Officer the Kimberly Park, please. We're looking for Miss Mamta Bhatt.
Yeah, we see like on Tuesday, Wednesday, she left, and then she says she's gonna go either New York or Texas, and then she left, she had the phone, and then she destroyed that phone, and then she left.
So she destroyed the phone and she left. She said she was going to New York.
Yeah, her sister, one of her sister.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any other contact information?
Yeah, I like, she has a different 3 phones. I do have like 2 phone numbers. One phone number, somebody other receiving, one another contact number for the New York. I do have.
Okay, can you show me that, please? Can you
Can we
have
get
that
those
info?
numbers? Can we get those phone numbers from you?
Yeah, we just want to see if she's okay because we have an employer calling.
Hi.
Did she say why she left?
Yeah, because we are about to separate, and then the home inspection come here to. I'm about to sell the home, so she wanna say like, okay, I wanna go with my sisters, and then she used to work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Okay.
And then sometimes I don't know where. You can come inside or I can come outside.
It's up to you, sir.
Up to you, sir. Yeah.
And she used to live in a falls church. I don't know the exact address. I know the building because I noticed there because I saw her email, and then one place over there, and then I don't know, somewhere in Manassas, because on the 8th, I think like on the 8th she started a job.
Last month?
No. Yeah, last month. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. On the 8th, so I'm not working since that. She say like she gonna be stay there, and then once she gonna be everything settled down, she will take the baby. She not gonna leave the baby with me. That's what she said. I know the building in Falls Church where she was. Still, she's living over there or Texas, because I already conversation with her sister. She just did not reply me, and then she was asking me, and then her mom is also asking for me. I don't know where is she.
Okay. So if you could give us the phone numbers, please. We want to see if we can make contact with her.
This is not the first time. Multiple times she go and then come back in a few days.
Okay.
I don't have the phone number for her sister. Usually I have a Facebook, but I don't have her phone number.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
So that's what I replied 2:23. Usually she works Thursday to Saturday. She works there, and then it's not like first time she disappear and then come back. I live with my parents over there. She say like, okay, I'm not gonna live with your parents. My parents left back home, and then still a lot of she going. She got the green card already, and then she was about to yeah.
Okay. When she left, was she did you say anything about hurting herself or anything concerning?
No, because if it's the first time, then I can say, oh, okay, where are you going, this and that. This is multiple times. I don't know who we call you, but sometimes she came back, and then most of the her stuff, regular stuff, she already I think in March she already take regular stuff, like regular wearing, regular shoes. This is her shoes even but the regular things she already take it. But the normal thing fancy wear, a suits, special wear, still we have here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I get your phone number, sir?
Yeah.
And do you have ID on here?
Yeah.
Okay. Just get that. Yeah, we'll get all that once.
Good thing I'm not law enforcement. I would have arrested this guy right there.
So we don't have contact. I mean,
Yeah.
what I'm thinking is if
Yeah, 100%.
maybe get his info and to tell us to give us a
also a lot
call.
of
if she comes
executive
back.
functions that govern his behavior here. I'm surprised. he wasn't
Yep.
talking about
Get his info. Sounds like they're going through a divorce, so she decided to go to New York with her sister.
This is being controlled on the COE side. I have no control.
I didn't know if you wanted to stop or keep it going.
Let's pause it for a second here. So he
Yeah.
went inside. Someone is asking if he's in custody. Yes, he is in custody. There's obviously
Yes.
stuff to discuss on the back side of this, but KLM is, by the way, shout out to Alicia Elliott for this, or Alicia. I don't know if I'm how to pronounce that. But thank you. And where was it here? I like this comment. A babbling idiot. Lindsay,
Yes.
I mean, this guy is just talking and talking, and it reminds you a little bit of the Sam Goldberg 911 call. Chris Watts, people are talking about,
Yeah.
but this is sort of I mean, they think they're doing a good job, but to anyone watching, it's pretty obvious that they are just creating a narrative as they go. But so, Lindsay, what's your take on this?
Well, Kimberly and I have spoken about this video many times. The kind of person, I mean, it's just odd that he's like, she destroyed her phone and then she left to go see a sister in New York, Texas. And then he's like, oh, I can only talk to these people through Facebook Messenger. I would have been like, well, let's call him and see if she's there. I'll wait, you know. But just the babbling idiot.
By the way, like, who destroys their own phone? Nobody. Like, you need that phone, especially if you're going to. He says she went to New York or Texas. This is always the case too. Like Sam Goldberg, just because I just did the Ellen Greenberg story the other day, he says she fell on the knife in a 911. How does he know she fell on a knife? You know,
okay, he doesn't.
Yeah. He knows, you know, that she destroyed the phone, even though he can't contact her. And Myron made the point. It's true. It's interesting to watch law enforcement because their body language tells you they know what's up. But before we keep playing it, Kimberly B, your thoughts?
Well, yeah. And at this point, we'll Tarantino and go backwards a little bit to before the call is placed. But at this point, it's a situation that many people find themselves in where it's someone may call in for a wellness check and many wellness checks end up being checked out, or someone really has just taken their space and they come back. And I think a lot of people wanted the police to jump on him in this moment, but this is the first time in this incident on this day that they're being made aware that she didn't go to work and people are concerned about her. So this actually becomes part of a Frank's motion later that ends up being withdrawn. But the public defender had an issue with whether they told him to report her missing or suggested it at a certain point. And at the end of this body cam, they'll give him instructions for next steps if he needs to report her missing, which then becomes an issue because he claims that he did and got no response, but we have text message audit that shows that they did. So that's why the Frank's motion was withdrawn. But it's still relevant. But yeah, he can't stop talking because I don't think he planned for this to happen when it did, just in general, that it would have point, because he didn't plan for this and he has no clue how to clean it up.
We're going to find out, obviously. I assume police do not go inside. He said, you want to come in? They said, we'll stay out, but eventually they will go in the home, and what they find is pretty telling and gruesome. But COE, let's play the rest of this.
If she just comes back, he'll give you a call. And I think it was her job who called, just called them, let them know that, hey, spoke to the husband. It appears they're going through a divorce and she left and went to New York.
And then she's not at the work.
Her employer called and asking, just called us to check if she was okay. So that's why we're here. We don't mean to bother you.
No, that's fine. She's supposed to be there. You know, usually, like, I don't know. I cannot check, you know, like where she goes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. It's all right.
Military?
Yeah.
What branch?
Army. You good?
Okay, Virginia.
No, my wife's military.
Oh, wow. So, can I have your card or something?
Yes, so I'll give you my card.
Yeah, so that I can call back. Hopefully, she either takes us because one of our very closest friends takes us. I don't know, like maybe like she working not. At this time, I know, like the home inspection, they come over here to evaluate the home and painting. So because, you know, I say like, I want to sell this home, you know, because, you know, a lot of stuff going on. So I just bought a year ago, it's less than a year. So I say like, I'm done. So people come over here and then, see, ask a little bit, but like, I already told them like, realtor, don't talk to anybody else. Just, make inspection and then make a value.
No, wait, can you get the cat on it, please?
Even like she was 5 months, she left for like 2 weeks. We never know. And then one of friend tell me like somewhere in Falchuk, and then after that, at that time, she had a laptop over here. In my laptop, her email was on, and then I see Uber was there. She did the Uber, and then I went to the nearby the building, and then I saw her, like at the building because I wait for her like work time. I see her there, and then same thing happens again another time right here in the Bright Street, right? She said like at that time we had a conversation. She said like I'm in the Fairfax. But like, I just guessed maybe like she is there, and then I just wait for a few hours over there. At that time, my parents was here, so I can go there. And then I see she's just stepping out from one of my friends, both like both of us friends, and then she just step out, and then I went inside. Why are you lying? If you wanna go, just go. If you don't wanna go, but I don't want to stay with you. That's what I say.
Right. Okay, sir. So your phone number.
Obviously, the audio just dipped out. I don't know if that's.
I think it's because they're exchanging phone numbers
that's what
and
it
other
is.
Yeah,
Okay,
phone number.
I got you. This is what I call
So
diarrhea
here's
of
my
the mouth.
contact info. The number on top is just
Word vomit.
the ID number, like that just distinguishes So that's the
ID number,
the ID number of,
and then 571.
yeah. The top one's just to document what we're talking about today. Okay. And the bottom is okay. If she does return home, just give us a call.
Okay. If she did not return home, like let's say she's supposed to be returned home by Sunday or Saturday because she worked Thursday to Saturday. Sometimes she doesn't come over here because last time it was like few weeks ago.
Okay.
I have also worked. If I left, she has to take care of the baby. If she left, I have to take care of the baby. That's why she decided, like, okay, when I'm working, I'm not gonna come home. If she doesn't come, so I have to file a complaint or what I supposed to do. She lost, maybe she say like, last time even like, she returned down and then she say like, okay, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna disappear for 6 months, make a different address, and then after that, we will separate this and that. So I don't know, like I'm kind of.
Okay. Well, if she does end up missing, just call us back. Again, it'd be a good idea to contact people that that knows her.
Yeah.
All right, to make sure she's not actually missing. But if that does happen, just give us a call.
And another thing, she has some mental issue as well. See, the nurse problem is there because if I say something with the nurse who know more, I say you know more. Like I say a lot of stuff. I told her like multiple times, let's go to the psychiatrist. Like do something. She said like, oh, I'm okay. I know my stuff. I'm a registered nurse.
Okay.
A lot of stuff, man. This problem, man.
I hear you, sir. I understand it could be complicated, but here's your ID back.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give the her employer a call back to see to let her know what we spoke about today. Okay.
All right.
And again, just give us a call. Well, you have my number. Just you can shoot me a text if you want. Just let me know if she comes back.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Until Sunday, I don't think so.
Was that
Until Sunday, I don't think so.
until
Last
Sunday?
time in March, she disappeared for a week or something. After that, I figured that out because of the
He's still
email. And then
talking.
she said like, I was in the parking lot, and then she said like, I'll meet you at the hospital. And then I meet her at the hospital. I say like, I know where you're living at, but I don't know like which building, which floor, which
Right.
big building.
Mhm.
So
That's a lie.
hopefully she will be back by Sunday. If not,
You're talking about this after tomorrow? Is
Yeah.
that what you mean? Okay.
yeah, this Sunday because she worked like maybe it's Saturday night because she worked like because she's not at work now.
Right.
Because before this 8th, she used to work in another hospital.
Mhm.
And then maybe she applied somewhere else and then trying to do that one as well. I need to figure that out,
Right.
because she used to work at the Innova hospital and then she switched over there. And if she want to try to move somewhere, if she applied somewhere, I don't know how to figure that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll give the employer a call and just read
Either New York,
the
either
info, okay?
Texas.
What? You said Texas?
Either New York, either Texas.
Oh, either New York or Texas. All right, sir. Thank you so much. Okay. All right.
Police are begging him to stop talking. The one cop just he started walking away. It's like I've been there with people where you just want them to please stop. I mean, at the end, Kimberly, he literally, as a lot of these narcissistic sociopaths do, he puts the blame on her. She's got mental health issues when he clearly is the one with those issues. I mean, it's tough to watch because it's so knowing what we know, which we're going to get into, some of the evidence in the house. This guy is definitely missing some important pieces of the puzzle in his brain.
Yeah.
If they only knew what he'd been up to in the 48 hours before they got there, which we'll deep dive into, but he basically projected every bit of his bad behavior onto her. But something that's really important about that week she went missing, and I didn't know where or what floor, what building. Lindsay, in the close mutual friends interview, Mamta asked if she could come stay with her with baby after that. But she said no, because Naresh's stalking predatory behavior while she was staying with the friend before concerned her, and she didn't want problems with her landlord. So he knew exactly where she was. It just knowing what we know and then watching this again with fresh eyes every time, I'm always learning something new from this body cam. I'm like, oh my gosh, we know it's infuriating. It's hard to watch.
It is. And what's interesting to me is at the beginning of the video, the officer asks Naresh, like, does she have mental health issues? Like, is she going to hurt herself? And then at the end, he was like, oh, she has mental issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
She's out and about gallivanting with other men in a car she doesn't have, with money she doesn't have, autonomy she doesn't have, but you happened to see her laptop was open and then showed up there. I think that's what happened to him. I think in reverse with narcissism, they're very quick to project onto you what they're actually doing. So I'm willing to bet that happened to him, and she Ubered to confront him about where he was at some point in time. And he used that to paint her to these police officers as this errant, absent mother who just wants to start her own life. And I'm suffering here with being childcare and not working. And it just.
He started whining about the home, his house, whatever's all about him. But
you're selling a house when your wife is Joel.
I know. Yeah.
So this is August 2nd, I believe. So walk us through, because now things start to come just unapart. What is this? WUSA reporters door knocked and interviewed Naresh. He changed his story and said she disappeared suddenly, and he had no idea. There you go. So now the statements are conflicting, as all kind of predictable. Seen this movie before, but Kimberly, so tell us, like, what are the important next details in terms of this starting to implode on him?
Do we have those timeline visuals from July 29th and then the 30th?
I think so. Let me see.
If not, I can pull them up, and there we go. The next one. So let's see. This is the 28th.
Some small print. I can't even
small
read these.
Print. Let me pull it up and take a look at from my end. So the 29th is an important date because it's the last activity that we know for Mamta. So the 29th of July, Naresh gets home pretty late / early, about 1 a.m., according to his Tesla. So we know that during the day on July 29th, Mamta texts a friend in New York, not a sister, not a relative, about an upcoming housewarming party. This should stick out to people because someone making future plans to socialize doesn't disappear.
Right.
And someone who takes her child and is this concerned on the internet, talking to strangers, looking for help, doesn't just voluntarily leave her child with a man who doesn't know how to. It's more insight that the state will use later to build a character and routine profile for Mamta, because they can do that in this case, because right now there's no body. She's never been found to this point, alive or deceased. They can build almost like a hearsay in any other case. They can build this description and this picture for a jury, what her routine was, would she likely have gone without this baby? No. So we know that her final communication with anybody outside of the house is around 8 p.m. on July 29th. She video chats with her mom at least twice a day. Her mom is in Nepal. They talk for about 15 minutes. She says that mom just seemed gloomy, not herself. And then somewhere around 8:15, that is the end of all sightings, communication, or evidence of Mamta's whereabouts. Law enforcement estimates that between 8 p.m. and 4 a.m. on the 30th, which, fun fact, is actually the peak time of day for intimate partner homicides, according to statistics.
Interesting.
That he ended her life in the master bedroom and bathroom of their home, dragged her out of that area, and dismembered her. But what happens over the 30th, the 31st, and the 1st is really interesting. And this is going to be where the Commonwealth is going to have the bulk of their evidence against him. And that is all before this wellness call. And you can see how word vomit, like Dr. Seussical at this point, that just the but you would not think that he'd accomplished what he had before this body cam interview that we'll get into, because it's quite wild.
Yeah. So, Lindsay, you want to pick up the baton there? So now we're heading in, I think, to the 30th, 31st.
Yes.
How does this start to, when, I know the police eventually obviously enter the home.
Yeah.
But here's July 30th. Walk us through here. July 30th is the next day in the timeline.
Well, so you can see some of his Google searches. Early in the morning, diagram of brain, chicken farm near me, which is super disturbing.
Wow.
And so you can see at 5:39, Mamta's mom calls. He doesn't answer the phone. But 1 minute later, he's texting the babysitter for the baby to ask when he can drop her off. He needs someone to take her for the day. He's got things to do. So drops the baby off at 6:30 a.m. About 15 minutes later, he's caught on the camera at the babysitter's complex, putting bags in the dumpster at the babysitter's apartment complex. And he then goes to Home Depot.
No story would be complete without a Home Depot or a Walmart.
Yeah, Home Depot and Walmart. So he goes and runs some errands, buys supplies. Mamta's mom tries to call again, and he, let's see, pulling up.
Doesn't answer,
right?
And I drove to this apartment complex. I did sort of a point-to-point driving video across these locations just to show the elapsed time from A to B. But also, I was able to drive right up to the dumpsters in this apartment complex. They are just wide open.
It's not an
easily
gated
accessible.
apartment. Yeah.
This is incredibly disturbing. What I'm going to say is not a very popular opinion. The American justice system is the best, but sometimes I wonder, do we just waste so much money on these trials? Because this guy is going to be convicted 10,000%. There's just, did you say he has a public defender? And
yeah.
And what's the defense so far, at least publicly?
Based on the motions, so we probably won't even have close to enough time to talk about what's happened since his arrest, but it is well worth it, because I'll give you this, and maybe this will keep people interested and in looking into this. We almost narrowly avoided not being able to charge him with murder to avoid double jeopardy.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. So the original charge, just to go forward a bit, was concealment of a dead body. And I have a very firm approximation about why they use this charge at this point in time. But that's a much smaller charge than murder.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So when did he finally get arrested? What was
22nd of August?
Yeah.
22nd of August. Okay.
Yeah. And a lot happens before then.
Yeah.
By the way, this is not neither here nor there, but it's all over the news and it's interesting.
Yeah.
We did not cover this story, but this is a guy
Oh, I saw
who,
that.
killed his father in what he said was self-defense and killed his mother, and gets acquitted by a Florida jury. I mean,
You
and
know
this
what's
kid just,
interesting?
yeah,
The Brian Walsh case that's active right now,
with Anna Walsh,
exact same charges before a murder charge was levied. Then both husbands are charged with murder. Both husbands have been accused of using a reciprocating saw. There's
Yep.
no body. There's Home Depot.
Mhm.
These cases are almost identical.
You just
Wow.
changed the
And that,
name.
and that caught our
Yeah.
attention too.
Yeah, by the way, for those who just missed that, because we kind of said it in passing, I guess when police execute a search warrant, go in, they find blood on a reciprocating saw, and that blood is a exact match to Mamta, sadly.
A
And
lot
then
of evidence.
then in December, a grand jury actually indicts Naresh, and this time it's on charges, correct me if I'm wrong, of first-degree murder and physically
Yeah.
defiling a body. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yeah, they were able to lump those two charges in, consolidate them, and then bump his trial to September 2025.
Yeah. So
He didn't
they
waive his speedy
actually,
trial the first time, but he sure did when those charges came.
well, they made those charges, I think, the Friday before his trial was supposed to start because
The
Kimberly was
DNA
ready
result.
to go. Yeah.
Yeah. We were waiting for DNA certificates of analysis to be submitted, and that's what they needed for their murder charge. And had they let him go to trial a few days later without submitting that, we would never have been able to charge him with murder because that would be double jeopardy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Do
And
we
the
know,
only
like,
reason they arrested him was because he was about to flee to Nepal and was stupid enough to tell the police he was taking the baby to Nepal.
wow, he would have probably gotten away. By the way, I mean, I doubt there is. Did you check to see if there's any extradition with Nepal?
There is not. We do not have an extradition treaty with Nepal. There's friendly
Right.
relations, but they would not
Yeah.
be obligated to bring him back here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what would you say is kind of like the key moment that led investigators to suddenly shift their focus here from missing persons to a murder investigation? Like, is there a point in time that you can kind of pinpoint?
Yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
mean,
I can, Lindsay, if you don't have one.
well, I was just going to say, I think as time went on, like he stopped cooperating, his interviews and things weren't really adding up. I know someone had, or a couple people actually compared this to Chris Watts and, Scott Peterson and whatnot. But once he stopped cooperating, I think that's when every law enforcement spidey senses started going off and wanted to look inside the house. Also, what's interesting is we've talked about this friend in this 4-hour interview. She went to the baby's 1-year birthday party
which
at
happened
the
while he was
house.
birthday.
And that was what, Kimberly, August
20th.
20th? Yeah.
Mhm.
He would not let anyone go upstairs
Or downstairs.
or
take
down,
pictures.
or take pictures.
Nothing.
Nothing.
This guy
But-
sounds like a piece of work. Yeah, go ahead.
The investigators, so he finally reports her missing on August 5th. During the time that they're waiting for him to do that, they've already started talking to friends and family. And
Mhm.
investigators and the chief of police, Mario Lugo, made it clear that during this sort of limbo period of time, they start talking to people. They got a very clear impression of Mamta and that she would absolutely not voluntarily leave this child, not tell the people who would be worried about her where she was going. It made no sense. And then his statements were just buck wild. And they start looking into her disappearance quickly enough that they realize 3 days later, August 8th, this is a critical involuntary missing person. And that's when the red flags go up to the public, because now it's not just a missing person. They suspect foul play and that she's not missing on her own. It only took them 3 days to come to that conclusion. And during that time, they find out that he's used hundreds of gallons of water in that house on the 31st of July when most people use a dozen a day.
Mm.
He's on camera
Mhm.
buying cleaning supplies, dropping trash bags with bloody things in them into dumpsters. I did that
Yeah.
drive too. Never again.
Yeah.
And the
By
Tesla.
the way, yeah, you bury more.
license plate,
You bury
yeah.
more if you did that. Fotis Doulos
Mhm.
did
Mhm.
that. I mean,
It-
it never ends.
This
Yeah.
needs to stop. But how do we make it stop?
Yeah.
That's a great question. If
But
anyone has the answer to that, let me know.
Yeah.
like also Home Depot. Why is it always Home Depot? Do they have great deals? Is this where you get like some kind of handbook and a kit? It doesn't work. This formula does not work, guys. Stop it.
Yeah.
Well, and
If you've gone into Home Depot, you've crossed paths with a killer. This is an interesting question
Probably.
from Sir Thriver. Earlier in the case, it's a great name, by the way. I
Mhm.
read that his parents did not like Mamta. Is there any Lindsay, do we know if that's true that his parents ever stated that?
I don't think they ever said that. I think them tolerating how he was treating her probably made her feel like she wasn't necessarily liked. Um, I don't think she felt like she had an ally in that house, especially when mom and dad were there. She had no one sticking up for her, telling him to take it easy. I think it was just they were there to support their son, and that's really it.
Every time I go to Home Depot, I want to unalive myself because I always need help and I can never get help.
Wow.
And they're always like, I'll call someone for you in aisle 43, and then no one ever calls, no one ever
Well,
comes, and it drives me
and
crazy.
Yeah.
that was the moment of
the whole
levity
side.
I had
Yeah.
thinking about this. How is this hapless man that can't put a sentence together to talk to a police officer who's not unfamiliar with authority figures? He was an Army reservist. He can't put a sentence together, but he's able to find the cleaning supplies he's never touched a day in his life in a Home Depot. I know that my husband would pick up a phone and call me. Where is this? There's signs above your head, but you're going to call and ask me where the Clorox wipes are in a store I'm not in. I'm surprised he found them, but
Your
a lot
husband
of
sounds
red
like
flags.
me. Your husband sounds like me.
I'm in Google.
Yeah, this is funny. Missy Kelly, when she goes to Home Depot, she looks at people's carts. I'm gonna start doing that myself. And yeah, Home
Yeah.
Depot, Walmart, Lowe's. It's never Lowe's for some reason, but Home
It's
Depot,
they
Walmart, come
Yeah.
sponsor our show, please. Come do
Are
it.
there more Home Depots than there are Lowe's in the US, you think? Is that
I
why?
think so.
And there are more Ace Hardware stores per capita than Home Depots. I did so much research. Don't
Ace Hardwares, I feel
I'm not
like are
sleeping.
just a staple, but I feel like they're
The helpful hardware
now
folks.
yeah, now we've gone off on crazy tangents, but I sort of love it.
Yeah.
What is I mean, Kimberly, we talked about it. This is a no body case. He mentions a
Mhm.
chicken farm. Did they search any chicken farms? Are there chicken in the area?
I don't believe they did. We've only just scratched the surface talking about this here. We have so much more coverage and we have more coming because it's just
Well,
you need all
will
these
you
little
guys
things,
come back
you know?
on to continue to update us?
Yeah.
Of course. We want
Yeah.
Mamta to be front and center for as long and humanly possible as we can help put her there. And
Mhm.
there's so much more. But no, we do have a list of places they did search officially, the places they found evidence, the dates that they went to the bot home. We've got a lot of these graphics are just the beginning. My OCD and type A-ness is very did I just say type A-ness? Cancel me, internet. I had a Naresh bot moment. I hope someone laughed at that because that's awful. There's so much more, and this is just it doesn't cover it. This is just
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's really scratching the surface, especially when Kimberly went on that drive to where his Tesla was, the cell phone pings. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. And I mean, he was putting huge bags of things in like to clothing donation bins.
I went
I
to
mean,
that bin. Oh,
yeah, and they found a bloody bath mat
yeah.
that they confiscated.
There's no chicken farms nearby, Joel. Just
Yeah.
I just remembered
Apologies.
what your question was instead of me putting my foot in my mouth.
Did anyone ask if did they do any kind of grid searches at the landfills and nearby
Yeah.
landfills?
Oh yeah.
And
Lots
that
of
came
them.
up empty. I mean, I know you don't know, but let me ask the question, Kimberly B. What I mean, if you had to guess, where do you think he put the remains? What do you think?
Unfortunately, I think that when you have a case with dismemberment specifically, it's
Mhm.
almost impossible to know. But that Tesla is super important because it gives so much context to where he's going and coming, and the cell phone pings that we have. It tells a story, and we don't have all of it. I'm sure they're going to hold some of that close to the vest before his trial. So hopefully they can tell us where they suspect that happened. But the risk that time is the enemy, and the risk that you take when you have to investigate a case where someone's been dismembered like this is they're probably going to be disposing in places where trash is picked up. And he did. He called several companies to find out what day they picked up dumpsters. If he was unfortunately scattering remains, they've long been picked up and moved. I'm going to guess dumpsters or places that are regularly maintained, that there's no frills, no fuss. Landfill, again, dumpsters. That clothing donation bin might have been the only unique thing that he did.
Yeah.
Because I had to figure out which gas station this was out of about 50 in that small area, whittle it down, and figure out which gas station he actually went to do this. And it's in the middle of nowhere, in this tiny little stretch of middle of nowhere. He was smart enough to do certain things like this, but not smart enough. I don't get it, but I don't know that we'll know. But she's definitely.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Leo's asking a trial date, which I want to get the answer to. But first, I mean, you live in that area. By the way, the COE used to report for WUSA, which is where we get, the body cam footage you saw comes from. But trial date, what was I just going to ask? I just forgot what I was going to ask.
See, I don't usually have to apologize for interrupting to someone else that does it to everyone. Like, we're both talkers. I'm like,
it's my ADHD. It's my ADHD. It was a good question. But yeah, trial date. But this is interesting too. Look at this. He Googled Brian Walsh and Fotis Dulos. Julie Frew knows everything about every case. That's interesting.
Did he?
Yeah. That I will bet if Julie Frew says it, it is correct.
It's a reliable source.
She's usually always. I don't ever know her to be wrong. But what about a trial date? Is one set?
September 8th. Right now, I'm subscribed. I don't know if this is the same everywhere else. It tickles me to say I'm subscribed to the court system. So all three of his cases have been consolidated, but separately, I get about 400 emails when there's an update for each one. So looks like when I look at the pleadings and hearings, it's about 3 or 4 weeks long. So into early October. So the 8th of September, roughly to about the 12th of October is what they've put on the docket.
Well, and it's also interesting is he wants a interpreter.
Yeah, we talk about that ad nauseum. Did you know, for example, that what you say to an interpreter in court back and forth is not part of the court record?
That's interesting.
Josh Ritter clarified that for us.
He talked about that.
Yeah, that's interesting. It doesn't surprise me. It's like attorney-client privilege, I guess, in a way. But the question I was going to ask, it came back to me. You live in this area, Kimberly B. What's the media coverage been like? I feel like this is not getting necessarily the national attention that maybe it deserves. But sadly, I think it's because there's so many of these going on. It's like it's crazy. But this is what Michelle Troconis wanted, an interpreter per Julie Frew. Julie Frew is like a walking.
Julie Frew is the MVP.
She really is.
She's the reign woman of true crime. The true crime.
Love it.
And I mean that with all due respect and
love it.
Thanks to Heidi Shaw. So I want to thank you guys immensely for coming on. This is Jury Duty Podcast. The co-host, it is Lindsey and Kimberly B. And I want to give you each kind of a final word and something that we didn't get to, but also your final thoughts. Lindsey, I guess give us sort of like a tease to the next appearance you guys will do. What else should we know, and how are you going to leave this?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just heartbreaking that that baby doesn't have a mom, and it's also heartbreaking because she was trying to help herself out of a relationship she didn't want to be in. However, he is in custody, and maybe the next time we can come on can be post-arrest information. Super interesting. Some of the defenses he tries to use for himself, and different things like that.
By the way, Steve Cohen, I know you're listening, Meave Moen. Credit to the COE, Steve Cohen, the man who makes the magic happen with guests, Space Coast on the West. Space Coast, I'm wearing your shirt tomorrow on the show. with Scott. By the way, Scott and Phil, if they agree to do it, we're going to go back to Suchir Balaji tomorrow and get their take on that investigation, which seems to be a complete screw up. I again forgot exactly what I was going to say. Oh, I was going to say that obviously we're going to have jury duty back on. God, when I'm tired, my ADHD is just off the charts. But Kimberly B, yeah, that's what I need. But Kimberly B, same thing. I mean, what's a piece that we didn't hear that you'd like us to know, and whatever you want to leave us with regarding this case.
Well, I see, Kate, your comment. You live in the area. You might go to. I will be there every day, and Court TV will have cameras there as well, so we will be able to see this trial. But you're right; it's not getting enough media coverage. So that's number one. If you can share this with somebody, anybody that might be interested, just to bring the awareness circle and sphere that much wider, please do. But
let me cut you off because I'm going to forget again. But I was speaking to Steve Cohen. I was speaking to Steve Cohen. I don't think we've ever done this, and I think we need to do this more. Invite podcasters on who deep dive. Admit it. I mean, we dive deep into several stories, but we're kind of doing like the best of with the biggest stories. But there are podcasters. I'm just going to throw it out there, like the judge in Kentucky who was murdered by the sheriff. You have Hillbilly Crime, who is solely focused on that. We did bring her on to this show, but I like this, Steve and COE and Spacey and the mods. Let me know if you agree. Let's do this more often. I like hearing about the cases and then just being able to kind of in real time do these interviews, but it wouldn't be possible if you didn't have Lindsey and Kimberly B with all the info. And I apologize. My ADD is off the charts. My interrupting is horrible. Julie B, your final thoughts about what we may have missed today and a tease ahead to another episode.
We've combined me and Julie Frew. I'll take it. No, it's okay. I'm always like red flagging myself, apologizing to Lindsey because I have extroversion to a fault. Share Mamta's story. Please, it doesn't seem like it might do anything, but trust me, the wider the net, you never know. Someone might call in with a tip because she has not been found. But also, what we didn't scratch the surface on is the legal strategy that it is really shaping up based on the hearings motions. I've been to some of the preliminary hearings before the charges changed, but I think we have a really good idea of what's going to happen with the state. We know some of the DNA results. We have some witnesses and some business records that have been objected to by the defense. There's a lot to untangle, but I think we're getting a clear picture of what to expect from this trial. And we're rolling with those punches too as they happen, but definitely worth thinking about when we think about no body cases. This should be a home run, but we don't want to say that too much on the internet because
we don't want to jinx.
Yeah,
there's more. There's plenty more.
What did I call you? Because Julie Frew's
Julie B.
You called.
That's because of Julie. That's because I was sorry about that.
Yeah.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, we knew what you meant. Also, can we share Gabby's stream a few days ago and like share that out? Because there was a lot of really good information on that stream that we did a couple days ago as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. That was if you weren't here, I think it was Monday night. We interviewed Gabby Petito's mother, Nicole Schmidt, and her husband, Jim Schmidt, who is obviously the stepfather. And it was, they were like some of the nicest people you ever meet. And amazingly, you just never know in this genre what's going to kind of get traction. That got very few views for videos that we put out there. And I'm really surprised. Because that's one of the biggest true crime stories. But yes, I mean, how would you like me to share it? I can obviously get you guys the links.
Lindsey's giving you a to-do list.
Yeah, I'll send you a to-do list, Joel, that I need you to get done. No, I'm kidding.
By the way, Steve Cohen wanted me to do a second show today. I was like, dude, I'm tapped out. I was in Philly at the beginning of the week. Guys, working me too hard. The COE is like, oh yeah, but I am tapping out. I'm doing a 12:30 show tomorrow. Then I got to collect myself. So I'm not a bumbling moron like
don't pull a Naresh.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't want to be like Naresh, but anyway, I interrupted
you talking to us, spending time with us. You're a busy man, so thank you. We're very glad to be here.
Yeah. So we will we'll talk offline. We'll get you back. We'll continue to follow Mamta to make sure she gets the justice she deserves. I'm really pleased and happy to do a show of this nature. And Myron, Miami Myron, my man Myron, take a break, Joel. I think I need
Take
one.
a break.
My daughter has a basketball game today. I had a vet appointment for my 2 dogs who are having stomach issues. And I had to call the vet and say, it's my daughter is 10 and she's playing basketball and got to go to the game. So I'm heading there and maybe I'll take a nap. I don't know. And there you go. It looks like KLM just subscribed to Jury Duty Podcast.
Thank you. We're small, but we're
mighty.
We got a lot of info.
mighty.
Small but mighty.
Yeah.
Love you, America. Love you, DC, the DMV, Florida, where Lindsey is, Florida, where I am, and justice for Mamta Bhatt. And Heidi is right, not because of us, but because of them. The Petito show was awesome. Please do give that a watch and share this story, not for us, but for them, and share the Suchir Balaji story that we did last night. That's another very important one. We will see you tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Lindsey and Kimberly, stick around for 1 second.